And we say greetings, this is Kabanka Pyramid representing the Lion Voice blog. Make sure that them check it out and stay tuned. See? Rastafari blessings every time.
I said. So we need a Pan-African cultural ethos or ethic. And that has to be based on accepting the differences of others. So if you're a Hebrew Israelite, if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, if you're Orthodox, no matter what it is, I shouldn't have a problem with the I. I shouldn't have a problem with I, because I will heal what I am healing. What we want to do when we connect is we want to find areas of common interest and see how we can build together on those areas. The areas we disagree on, unless it's an academic exercise, we don't need to go into that, because there's so much we can agree on that we can build, that we can develop, that will benefit all of our children and future generations. So let's keep it there. And this is the principle we learned from His Imperial Majesty, how he dealt with world affairs. When he's talking to Charles de Gaulle or some of these people where in history we wouldn't look at them favorably, but you find out, say, he's speaking in glowing terms. It's because he's building bridges, because the bigger picture is we need that development, or we need you to not openly try sabotage, or we need you to, it's a practical approach to development, but we have to be practical because we're on earth. So instead of me and the Hebrew Israelite brethren at war, or me and me Christian brethren at war, or me and me Muslim brethren at war, let's find out where we agree and let's build from there.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
R-E-triple-G-O, reggae music just only quick go home. R-E-triple-G-O, it's my style, it's my music, it's my beat, it's my flow. R-E-triple-G-O, reggae music just only quick go home, come on.
Rego is in Africa. We're going to Jamaica. Rego from DC. Rego is international. Before we hit up, we hit up. Everything we do, you know 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 we hit up. Yeah. I'm a nightmare. Only me alone can fix that bird.
Them could never conquer the mountains. Thousands of years and counting. Ethiopia rise again unto the world. Now we are announcing. Them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. When the trumpet sound and the violence cease, how we say one go build up the cities. Well, them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. Rastafari crown as the Prince of Peace. Him tell the youths them fi build up them countries. Well, solar energy that them a see. The whole city powered by the sun's energy.
To episode 101. And if this is your first time watching, welcome to the Lion Voice Network. We are building something beautiful over here. Yesterday, to celebrate African Liberation Day, we had our very first live stream featuring Dr. Kadamawi Knife of the University of the West Indies, one of my brethren. Again, I&I Superpower is the network. But you know that once we open up that international door, the possibilities are now endless in terms of who we can have featured on this platform for the network. So we give thanks. We're just getting started. Today we're going to continue the conversation about African liberation. We celebrated African Liberation Day. We touched on it a little bit yesterday, but I wanted to go in this episode in terms of what does African liberation look like? What are some of the futuristic vision that we can put forward in terms of a liberated, united, and prosperous Africa? What does that look like? We spend a lot of time discussing, the reaction or the struggle to get free, but we also have to spend some time envisioning what we're fighting for. What are we building? What is it that unites us? What is that drives that passion? And then in particular for Rastafari, what does that look like for us? What is that role? We touched a little bit with Dr. Nye, but the reasoning was so sweet. The time was so short. We didn't really get to dive into it. So I wanted to use this episode to discuss 5 things or 5 components of African liberation in this modern era. What I believe that looks like. What are some of the considerations? So before we go any further, let us get straight into the topic. What are the components that we're going to need for African liberation? I'm going to talk about 5 components. The number 1 component is an economic system that allows us to build an economic base. Big up to Dr. Claude Anderson and Powernomics. He talks about economic base as being first floor in attaining true collective power, and that is something that as we move into the continent, as we reimagine south to south trade, connecting the continent to our diaspora globally, we have to the foundation level create an economic system. The basis of this economic system, of course, has to be agriculture. His Majesty said agriculture is a prerequisite for industrialization, and he said that any people who invest in agriculture can look forward to a bright future. I'm paraphrasing. But the point is that the economic foundation that which we build as we move into the continent, the point is that the economic system that we're building as we move into the continent has to be based on agriculture, food sovereignty, water security, because at the end of the day, you have to eat food, you have to drink water. So why not make sure that our economic system is based on something that we know everybody needs? So this is where ITAL standards come in. This is where Rastafari health practices and growing practices can give us a competitive edge in the marketplace. So the building of Zion requires the foundation, which is our economic system, and that's agriculture. So the second pillar, and I'm going to speak specific to the Rastafari family, but this is applicable to the Pan-African family. This is applicable to the global African family. But particularly as Rastafari, I have to speak to my core audience, which is Rastafari brethren and sistren, mostly brethren. This channel is for everyone, but the core, we know our core is definitely Rastafari. And let me just clarify, if you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. Some of us have been here from the very beginning. Some of the Lion Pride have been here from 10 subscribers. We're now over 890. We're headed toward 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch hours, which of course is the minimum threshold for YouTube to monetize. It is our intention to monetize the channel and to make this a sustainable part of the Dejazmatch Kwasi ecosystem. And the ecosystem model is something that I'm going to be sharing a little bit more as we go along, because this is going to be one of the pillars of the vision of how we move forward as a people in terms of our creative industry. Now, let me just talk about the Lion Pride and just say big up the Lion Pride, the support. Yesterday, we were aiming for 10 people on the live. We actually had 22 people who tune in, so we more than doubled. And I know people will say 10, 22, what kind of small number you deal with, Ras? As creatives, I tell my clients, set achievable goals. we're still a baby channel. We're still getting the word out. So we set realistic goals, you know. We like to under promise, over deliver. I didn't know, based on the promotion, you know, we put it out on the social media. But remember that only a small fraction of your actual friends and followers on those social media platforms actually see your posts and your content. So, you know, we didn't expect big, but we know that the word of mouth will spread. The episode has been viewed over 150 times so far since yesterday. And if you're watching it on Saturday, of course, that would be Thursday, May 25th, that we did the live. So it's probably north of 200 views at this point. So we give thanks that we're reaching that many people. And I always say, as creatives, if you get 200 people in a room and you can deliver a message, that's a blessing. So on this platform, we count our blessings. We don't complain about what we don't have. Not at the Lion Pride. In the Lion Pride, we have gratitude for what we do have. Speaking of gratitude, we want to welcome 2 new sponsors to the Lion Voice Network. Yes, I said sponsors. People are watching. People are seeing the vision. We do have sponsorships available at very reasonable rates, given that we're still small. So now is the time to build a relationship. If you love what you see, you love the content, you have a business, a service, now is the time. Reach out to see how we can help to highlight your product or service. So I want to just big up, first and foremost, Raymia Designs. I'm gonna put it on the screen so you can see the cleverness. Big up Raymia Designs. That means everything from Zion. You can see this nice, you know, it comes with a metal straw, solid, you know, your hot drink, cold beverage, seal, open, nice. They sell things like this. They have a lot of designs. We're gonna put up the website. Please go and visit them and let them know that you came from the Lion Voice Network. We give thanks that they have supported, and they are now also a part of the Lion Pride on Patreon. We also want to welcome Ras LIDJ, you know, the founder of the Rego movement. You saw his commercial at the beginning of the episode. He has come on board as a sponsor. His episode did very well for the channel. You know, across all of the episodes, all of the clips, you know, the feed forward has been tremendous. So the Brethren has seen the response and has decided to invest, you know, in his Brethren platform, and we give thanks for that, because we say collective security for surety. So the greatest thing is when you can live what you say, and I give thanks because, again, I've been telling my clients for years, build out their creative ecosystem. I've been telling them for years, consistency beats perfection. And now that I've put myself out there into the public space, many works to share, including Haile Selassie's Ethiopia, the rise of the priestly warrior kings. Beautiful. So we have so much to get into. But before we do that, let us get into the topic. So, second part is the orange economy, otherwise known as the creative industry. For this, I have put together a creative ecosystem model that, you know, you can go on my website, you can download the outline, and this is something that I'm tweaking. It's based on Mother Nature and how a natural ecosystem works. We've divided, you know, across all creative endeavor. You know, we try to create a system that can be applicable to whatever your creative part is. This is my creative ecosystem, or the Lion Voice Network is part of my creative ecosystem that you all are getting to see actualize. But there are other aspects of the ecosystem. The Patreon is part of the ecosystem. the Facebook, the Instagram. These are all parts of the ecosystem. So in terms of how we conceptualize how all of these things work together, that is what we're building, and that is what I do consultations. So if you're interested in going deeper into the ecosystem model and building alongside the Lion Voice Network, book a consultation. Let's talk, let's build. But those are the two things, and I think that the ecosystem is critical for the economic foundation, because we need a decentralized economic foundation, meaning that all of the individuals within the ecosystem are economically strong, or at a minimum have economic tools that they can leverage, whether it be an audience, whether it be a product or service, things that can plug into the other ecosystems. So if all the creatives have their own ecosystem, then it's easy when it comes time for a collaboration, because anyone who approaches I know, there's ways that I can fit them in, whether it be an interview, whether it be sponsorship, whether it be, and it's not unique to I. Every creative can set up their own ecosystem, because you're passionate about something. There's an audience out there that's passionate about what you're passionate about. Your voice is unique in that it's your voice. I built my platform and I talk about things that I'm passionate about. I greet the emperor every time I come on the screen, because that's how I feel comfortable and that's how I live. You might do your platform differently, but you can go ahead and set up your ecosystem, your platform, and all of us now connecting. It's strong, so they can't cancel no one, because we have countless platforms on which we can connect, countless platforms on which we can trade. And remember, His Majesty said, farmers farm, traders trade. I shall govern you with the ordinances that have been passed down by my forefathers. That was the coronation proclamation. So trading is part of a thing amongst each other and building it up. That's why we created the Association of Rastafari Creatives, to create a trade association. Again, that we're talking about trade, setting up that economic foundation. So that's number one, is again the economic foundation. And the same thing for agriculture. We're looking at decentralized systems of farms, small producers bringing their produce together, aggregate ITAL standard to sell to larger markets, but also the lifestyle, promoting a lifestyle, marketing a lifestyle of farmers markets, of people purchasing food frequently as part of their health and wellness. You go out for a walk, you buy fresh produce, you cook it that night. It's not too much storage. Yes, there will be storage component, but if you look at places, even in Europe, Africa, you find out that people go to the market often. That's part of the social interaction, that's part of the community, that's where you see. So we want to bring those things, those Asian traditions that we thought, because guess what, you get it up, it's exercise, it's social interaction, which is a mental health piece. Part of the reason why so much people are mad is because people don't talk to each other anymore. Social interaction is limited. You're interacting mostly with a screen. So these things are critical in terms of economic foundation. At the market, trade is happening. Because we need a dressmaker, we need this, we need that, we need a plumber. So all of these things are part of, again, the liberation. Because if we can feed ourselves, we can free ourselves. If we control our creative industry, we control a culture. And that is critical. And any government right now that wants to maintain its culture is investing in the creative industry or the orange economy. You can ask K-pop and the example of South Korea. But I don't want to get too much, because we have 4 other areas to talk about when we talk about African liberation. But number 1 is the economic foundation or economic system. Number 2, we want to emphasize on a culture of unity. So I talked about the creative industry, and one of the things that we want to promote in the creative industry is a culture. We need a Pan-African cultural ethos or ethic, and that has to be based on accepting the differences of others. So if you're a Hebrew Israelite, if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, if you're Orthodox, no matter what it is, I shouldn't have a problem with the I. I shouldn't have a problem with I, because I will heal what I am healing. What we want to do when we connect is we want to find areas of common interest and see how we can build together on those areas. The areas we disagree on, unless it's an academic exercise, we don't need to go into that, because there's so much we can agree on that we can build, that we can develop, that will benefit all of our children and future generations. So let's keep it there. And this is the principle we learned from His Imperial Majesty, how he dealt with world affairs. When he's talking to Charles de Gaulle or some of these people where in history we wouldn't look at them favorably, but you find out, say, he's speaking in glowing terms. It's because he's building bridges, because the bigger picture is we need that development, or we need you to not openly try sabotage, or we need you to, it's a practical approach to development, but we have to be practical because we're on earth. So instead of me and the Hebrew Israelite brethren at war, or me and me Christian brethren at war, or me and me Muslim brethren at war, let's find out where we agree and let's build from there. Because these things, religion is personal, state is for all. His Majesty said that too. So that culture, that ethos of, so that's part of the liberation, because the biggest stumbling block to African liberation is tribalism. And this is one of the things that I believe Rastafari can do, because Rastafari brings together people from all across the spectrum. We have ardent Christians where Rastafari, we're going to tell you about Jesus all day. Then we have ardent Panafricanists who burn the Bible, and the two of them are say Rastafari. We have man where I say Kemet. We have man where I say, Hebrew Israelite, perspective. All of them are within Rastafari. You will find Rastafari brethren will lead to them thing there. So it shows us that we can find common interests, and again, we can unite. But that culture and that ethos is one of the pillars in terms of the establishment of African liberation. We have to agree to disagree, family. We're not going to agree even in families, in close blood related families, there are disagreements. So once we accept that principle, we shouldn't make anything stop us from building this new alternative to Babylon and the sinking sand. So that is number 2. Number 3, we have to work to eliminate slums and ghettos. The slum and the ghetto is a colonial concept, meaning just because it's a low income area doesn't mean it has to be run down, garbage ridden, nasty, full of crime. That is a concept, that's a thought, that's a disease of poverty. We can alleviate that. That doesn't mean everybody's going to be rich. But, I have a song, Mama Africa, I said we want to turn all your slums into garden.
Love your mama, your heart never harden. I wanna turn all your slums into garden. I wanna stop all of your youths from starving. I wanna stop all of your tribes from warring.
Meaning, we could use the principles of urban agriculture, and these inner city low income areas could have gardens planted throughout. Just because there's a small space, you can look at some of the tiny homes them and see how islandful, you can make a tiny space, with just your innovation, how you can utilize space using natural building materials, bamboo, certain things. If cost is an issue, we can be using natural materials. Man can have bamboo floor, bamboo furniture, all kind of thing where is low cost but can look very nice, and it doesn't have to be chaka run down and slumish or ghettoish. So we have to erase this concept. I would love to have the resources to go and house by house go through the ghetto and redesign, reimagine, and we just take an area and every year we just erase a portion of the ghetto and reimagine and redesign it as Zion. You know what I mean? How this place would have looked in as Zion. These things are the work of Rastafari moving forward, because we have to wipe out Babylon, never to be remembered Rabba Babylon anymore. And that is one of the pillars of the liberation, is to erase this correlation between low income and destitution. You know, you can be low income and still irie. You can be low income and still live good within yourself, you know, and within your environment, you know. Again, using the natural materials to build, and you know, being efficient and smart. You know, government investment could be putting in, for example, solar heating and things like that to reduce the cost of power to these areas. So there can be some government investments, but even without the government investment, you know, part of the thing is that we as a people, African people, have to reject this concept of the slum and of the ghetto and transform these low income areas into beautiful oases of urban gardens, you know, edible things. You know, we have food trees and different things planted up in your yard instead of zinc fence and garbage and all these things. So these things are achievable. Cleaning up the slums and the ghetto, that's number 3, which leads us to number 4, which is the overhaul of the sanitation system. You know, a lot of our poor areas, you see gully kind of thing, so we'd have to reimagine how we're dealing with sanitation. Big up to Mama Thea, who we had on Lion Talk. Go forward and look at her episode of Lion Talk. We talked to her. She's a chemical engineer, work at the DC Water Commission, dealing with sanitation and those things. So these are things that as we grow on the channel, we're going to bring her forward to talk about how we can reimagine sanitation and how we deal with sanitation. At the KWASI project, you know, we have the biofield sanitation, which separates the liquid and solid waste, and, you know, bacteria break down the solid waste, and you can then empty them and use them, you know, as compost for your non-edibles and different things. So at KWASI, we are already experimenting with different forms of sanitation in terms of how we deal with sanitation. But the challenge now that we're looking at is how do we scale these models for a residential community and then for a city, you know, the cities of the future. How do we deal with the waste issue? This will also extend to how do we deal with landfill and garbage in general. In the developing world, we burn a lot of garbage. You know, we don't have the landfill sites. And even the whole concept of the landfill, how can we come up with a better solution for waste management so that we are recycling most of the things that we need and we're reducing the impact on the landscape in terms of garbage. We're getting rid of plastics. We're using alternatives to plastic and non-perishable things, and having things that can break down naturally in the environment. So that is one of the things. So overhaul of the sanitation, which would include the drainage as well as the landfill system. Finally, number 5, you know, how do we integrate? We have to integrate nature and modern development. So as we build more modern and futuristic, we want more green. A good example of this is Singapore and what Singapore has done in terms of integrating wildlife. You know, if you watch Singapore, there's a nice series with David Attenborough, Wild City, I believe it's called, where they show you how Singapore, them have river otters in the city and monitor lizards are run up and down through the city, and one bag of thing, you know, crocodiles, and they you know, basically turn the whole island into a water catchment system, catch the water, put it into the riverways. They have fish throughout this, you know, and modern cities right there. They plant fruit trees all over, green everywhere in the city. So these are things now as we build, we want to include that. Why? Because we know that, first of all, purification of the air. The more green you have, the more toxins are being removed from the air, the cleaner the air that you're breathing. We also know that being in the green is good for your mental health. We also know about grounding when you walk barefoot, releasing all the energy waves that you're being bombarded with, whether it be microwave, TV wave, cell phone wave, all of them wave there. When you walk barefoot, you ground yourself, allow that that energy to walk through. So, you know, having these natural spaces, park spaces in the cities, you know, again, water catchment, integrating the native wildlife, so the native wildlife has habitat and can coexist with humans. These are the things that, for the liberation of the continent, are going to be essential, because we have to restore that balance with Mother Nature. So those are just 5 things in terms of liberation. Of course, eliminating the colonial masters and these things, but we know the evil shall slay the wicked. And I think that once we, again, the number 2, once we create that culture of unity and we eliminate the tribalism, the colonial trickery and treachery will fade away very easily, you know, because that's the main tool they use, divide and rule. Again, is their only plan. So once we eliminate that from the system, we're going to find a lot of things fix themselves. Another thing, again, emphasis on family. Big up Sister Aini with the sound. And you know, this channel, we are big on the restoration of the black family. Having that basic building block is a key aspect of the liberation. So much more. What did I miss? I know I missed a whole heap of things. Big up all of the sponsors. Big up CMAS. So the network is growing before your eyes. You're getting to witness the uprising of something powerful in the earth. We are going to show the world the power of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I. We have to show ourselves, because I think a lot of time as Rastafari, we don't even know our own power. So I, you know, humbly stand before the item as an instrument of the Most High to allow us to see the greatness. My one superpower is the network, and we're going to use this platform to bring that network to the family. And we're going to do that for one reason. That reason is because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice.
Lion voice. Them could never conquer the mountains. Thousands of years and counting. Ethiopia rise again unto the world. Now we are announcing. Them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. When the trumpet sound and the violence cease, how we say one go build up the cities. Well, them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see them wanna go dismantle the base. Rastafari crown as the Prince of Peace. Him tell the youths them fi build up them countries. Well, solar energy that them a see. The whole city powered by the sun's energy. The road them make out of hemp and concrete. Neighborhoods full of fruit trees that taste sweet. The youths put down them guns, them harvest and a reap. The beautiful gardens will line every street. Tired of the bloodshed, them done with the beef. Not even animals for dead, them burn out the meat. Where people say Haile Selassie, I see Nile. When they see say him a treat the dirt like a child. Peace on earth from the banks of the Nile. That's why we giving thanks in style. See say Babylon a weapon, them a stockpile. Babylon a wicked, kill them brother and smile. Lion, Babylon a reptile. Them a plant fish, shed blood, we got plans for the soil. Them a